What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to ICNV Drivers Edition. This right here is probably going to be the most, I don't want to say rant, but unscripted, unfocused conversation I can have. But it's literally going to get rid of a lot of thoughts that are on my mind and answer a lot of questions I'm being asked. So let's get to this video. Alright, so I did release 2 videos of me and my big homie Swole, and I know I've got some emails asking me what happened to the other 2 videos I discussed inside the video. Well, I'll be honest with you, it was completely lost. It had to do with my error, and I'll explain. I was downloading my videos from the flash drive I use to record the info, and I usually switch them over to a 5 terabyte hard drive that I put all my videos on, which I just cannot find at this point. So I have tons of footage that is technically lost but not lost. I'm sure it will turn up at some point, but I usually switch it over to this 5 gigabyte hard drive. I'm sorry, 5 terabyte hard drive. And in the midst of that, I didn't pay attention to my laptop battery. The laptop died in the midst of the transfer over, and my son, who is now getting a little bit more involved with the videos, well, he likes to come out from time to time and actually do the filming of some of my videos, and I encourage it, so I allow him to do so. Well, in the midst of that, when I took the flash drive out and put it back in my GoPro for filming, it said that the disc needed to be reformatted. Well, considering I didn't delete any videos off of the file or the disk, I didn't really want to reformat it because I wasn't sure what took place or what transferred over, because I did notice that the laptop was off and I could not confirm if all the videos had transferred over, but I still had about an hour worth of shooting time on this flash drive. So as I was looking for my other flash drive, because I actually traveled with 3 to shoot videos, which ends up giving me about 7 hours of footage, and God knows I never really shoot 7 hours of video footage in one sitting. But it happens to be times where I may be on the road and I don't have access to everything, or I keep changing stuff and time just doesn't allow me to edit a video or get the information off at night. So with that being said, as I was looking for another flash drive to swap out on my GoPro, my son picked up the camera, saw it said reformat the disc, and he hit reformat. So all that video information was lost. And the thing about it is, that was a good amount of videos. There was some car shows I attended. It was a lot of information behind it. I'm not mad at him, you know, it happens. Those are things. Those are the casualties of the YouTuber's life / video content creators journey. So we can move on from that. But what I will sit there and say is, although, as you heard out my big homie Swole's mouth in the video, is some of the stuff just has to be natural and it has to be organic. And although I can try to sit back down, and I tried to reshoot the footage I lost, it was never the same. And the reason why I say that, because if you saw the Z06 effect of the C8 market information of the C8 Z06 or the C7 Z06, and here's the link right here. But if you saw that, that video was a remake. I actually sat down and talked to Swole in the video, when we were going over his car, which I lost that information. There's a remake on that too that's coming, so stay tuned. But when we went over his car, we covered a lot of valuable information, and we kept bouncing. We were bouncing to the C7Z06 place on the food chain since the C8Z06 pricing that came out. We couldn't recreate that content, and there was a lot of information that came out, a lot of insight. And although I wanted him to say some of the key points he said in the first video, of course that never came up in the second. So I felt like I had to narrate it some, but even as time went on, because it took us at least, I would say, 2 weeks to sit back down and get together to reshoot the video that I lost. The information that we shared in the first video never came back up. Now, with all that being said, one of the things that came up out of that extra hour and say 20-minute conversation that took place was that Swole said something that I really started to hear as a trend when I talk to Corvette owners. And what most Corvette owners sit there and say is, there was a certain car that was their dream car, or the car that they were chasing, and they never looked beyond it. And in that conversation with Swole, he sat there and said that the C7Z06 was the car that he desired, and he never really looked beyond it. So as he owns it now and he's enjoying it, he says there are some moments he feels like he's outgrowing it, and not because of the horsepower and so forth, but you just happen to get to that point. And I don't want to steal his thunder because he said a lot more in-depth information about this topic, but I'm just summing it up to the points that stick out to me. And what he was sitting there saying is that he never looked beyond the Z06. So now that he has it, he's sure at some point it's not going to be enough car. He's not going to get rid of it. At least his intent today is not to get rid of it, but he hadn't looked beyond it. Now, what I find funny about this is he also mentioned that he did look at the C8, and he probably would have got the C8, but the bill he wanted to do was an $89,000 car, and they were asking $40,000 over MSRP, and that's where they lost him at, because he was just like, I understand market adjustments, but I'm not paying 40 grand over MSRP for this car. So now, although the C8 may have caught his eye, the car he desired just made more sense, which was the C7Z06, because it was in a price range he was willing to pay, and it was actually less than what he expected to pay for MSRP payment on a C8 Stingray. Now, the reason why I say I'm a bounce, because I would sit there and say this. Why do people complain? And most people complain because it's something they don't have. I started to realize, especially in my conversations, the more people that complain about the pricing of the C8 actually don't own one. That's just straight up truth. The next thing I started to realize is, regardless of how people got their C8, most people that actually have their C8, and everybody is not going to be a happy customer, but most people that actually have their C8 are satisfied customers, and they either tell you it was worth the wait, because most of them waited some months, some years, and so forth. And don't let people lie to you, because that's the biggest thing. I read a lot of these Facebook and Instagram posts where people want to tell you how quick of a turnaround it was for when they placed their order. But here's the catch-22. It's never been a long wait for the car. When you placed your order, it was never a long wait for the car. And that's what I want people to understand. So people are sitting here giving you false expectations and information, because many people signed up on a list a year or 2 years ago, some even 10 months out, but they want to come back and tell you, oh, I went to the dealership, gave my deposit, which before everything got crazy, you didn't have to put down a deposit to get on a list. I just want you to understand that. When I first went out and looked at the C8 and they were asking that I want to order a car or get on their list, and this was at multiple dealers, no one asked me for a deposit. They just sat there and said, hey, you can sign up to be on this list, and when your name comes up, you'll give a deposit and we'll move forward with purchasing the car. That's usually how business was handled prior to COVID. So a lot of people, I want people to understand this, I didn't have to come out of pocket to get on a list. I'm gonna say that one more time. I didn't have to come out of pocket to get on a list. That's why when they start asking for these deposits, I feel like, and many people have actually sat there and said it, you're just giving the dealership free money. Free money to go out and use to purchase cars, to hopefully sell cars, and take your deposit as an investment towards the dealership. Now, one thing we haven't heard or haven't discussed, because it's actually happened, is a few Chevy stores actually shut down that took deposits from customers. I've heard a customer complain. I actually had a customer ask me how to go about getting their money back, and I was like, that's a long process. And that's one reason, although many people don't hear what I say, but that's one reason why I've never given any dealership a deposit to be on a list to order a car. Now, don't get me wrong. If there are 1,000, 3,000 people on a list like at McMokin and Sioka, in the grand scheme of things, that amount of money they have, they should never go under, because many of the people on the list are actually going to get a Z06, and that refund money they don't have to give back, or that deposit money they don't have to give back. It should keep their doors open for daily business. But imagine just being in that situation where you gave a dealership your money for a deposit to wait on a list to order a car, and then the dealership goes under, or goes belly up, as they say. Well, it's happened. And most of those dealers, I'll be honest, didn't have tons of customers on their list waiting for Z06s. They just had a few. But regardless of how many people they had, whether it was 10, 20, 30, when you lose your money, you are pissed. And that's why I keep telling people that it's a lot going on. The pandemic effect has not ended. And if you actually go around and look around, you will see a lot of locations still don't have tons of inventory. And that's a concern. So what's the point of this whole video? I will say it to you like this. The point of this video is there were several key points I want to get across. The first one is, what's next? For many people, they haven't looked beyond the Corvette. And I say this to you because when I talked to a lot of people beforehand, most people told me the C7Z06 or the C7Z01 was their end-all be-all dream car, the car that they wanted to get, and said that they would be satisfied when it came going forward. And then GM released or announced they were building a mid-engine Corvette. And most Corvette enthusiasts were like, oh yeah, GM's about to make the first supercar, the supercar community will be on notice. And when they released the 0 to 60 times like 2.9 seconds, I would say majority of the Corvette loyalists felt like GM have actually arrived to the supercar market. And now when I go to events, especially supercar events, you see more C8s in attendance than you ever seen any other Corvette before. But I'm saying this to you because I feel like the biggest issue with a lot of people is that when it comes down to this, they never looked beyond the Corvette of their dreams. So now, when we're talking about the C8 Z06, what happens is, because they never plan for what's next, they feel like the Corvette, which has always been the working man supercar, at least that's what it was told to me when I was growing up, it's the working class, the working man supercar, that when you can't get the car that was meant for you to get, or that you believe you should have the right to obtain or own, it becomes a problem. And that's why we're seeing a lot of frustrated people, because the C8Z06 is almost unattainable. And because most true Corvette owners never thought about what's next, they never had a plan in place or idea or any other way of obtaining something else. So they throw out these random comments of Porsches, Ferraris, and Lamborghinis, but they really never planned on owning one. So even when you say it, like, I'll go get a Huracan or I'll go get a Gallardo, the maintenance cost was never thought about. The upkeep was never thought about. The out-of-date technology and so forth, the list can go on. And that's one thing I want to point out, is that because many people haven't thought about what's next, that because now they don't have the option to get what they feel should be next, they have no idea what to do. And that starts the frustration. My second point I want to discuss is that many people actually keep up the madness. And I say this to you because I've listened to so many people, I've read so many Facebook comments and so forth, where people sit there and say that they got their car in a certain amount of time. And ultimately, they're portraying dealers, or every dealer, as being a bad dealer. And then they're trying to force you to Mac Mulkin, Sioka, Les Stanfield, pretty much the top 5 dealers in the country. And the problem with that is, if you don't, I would say, patronize the other dealers, you're going to miss an opportunity. Those dealers I just named, the top 5 dealers, the top 10 dealers in the country, can't sell all the Corvettes. But if you believe that every dealer is out to get you, or every dealer is out to exploit you, you will miss some good opportunities, because there are a lot of good dealers, great dealers, that aren't top 100 Corvette dealers across the country. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody wants to get their, I guess I can say, fair share or form of profit when it comes to this car. But what I'm sitting there saying to you is, for people to try to make it seem like they got, I don't know, it's just something about the world today where people like to make you feel like they're better than you. And they do that through what I call simple or stupid practices of trying to say, well, I went to this dealership and they got my car in 5 weeks. Look, man, regardless of how long it took you to get it, if you didn't get your car in 2020, you had to wait. Just because you decided to go out and get a C8 in 2022 and you got your car 3 months after submitting your deposit, you still waited, because you were not one of the first to get a 2020 or a 2021. And I say that because regardless of how you look at it, if you bought the car today, that meant you wanted the car beforehand. You waited until the right optimal time for you to purchase the vehicle. So despite whether you were on somebody's list formerly, you still waited. And that's what people don't understand. The minute I decided to get a car, I didn't wait more than 3 months. 4 max, but I didn't wait longer than 3 months. And that was from me making my first deposit to get a car to me actually putting one in my driveway from 3 deals blowing up. So my thing is, I'm just being honest with you. When I saw the Corvette reveal, the mid-engine C8 reveal, I said I want to get a Z06. When I saw the pandemic hit and the car market get shut down, and then all of a sudden they couldn't produce 20,000 cars, that was the red flag for me. Once I realized they could not produce cars, I shifted from the Z06 to getting a base C8. From that point on, that's when my wait began. But for a lot of people who were still waiting for this base C8, and they was like, oh, I'm going to wait 2 years because all this over MSRP pricing is going to go down. But that's just it. You waited 2 years. So when you come out and say, I only waited 3 months to get a car, no. You waited 2 years because you waited 2 model years to try to get a C8 at MSRP. So you waited. So that's all I'm sitting there saying. Stop letting people mislead you when it comes to getting this car. Stop letting people create false animosity with every dealership selling a Corvette, because there isn't one. I just want people to understand that. And the last thing I want to talk about and discuss is be an educated shopper. Be an educated buyer. I share a lot of information with you guys because I want you to understand what's taking place. I'm saying it again to you now because, as I mentioned, that the deposit game to me, and I'm not telling you how to spend your money, because when I say be an educated buyer, I'm telling you to make the situation work out best for you. To me, the deposit game is just not what I'm a big fan of. I don't believe in giving dealers big deposits and huge down payments versus getting a car. I'd rather give a small down payment, try to invest my money some, see how that plays out. If it doesn't work out in my favor, make higher monthly payments and get rid of the principal on the car a lot quicker, and it still gives me some flexibility to do other things. But that's just my belief. Not necessarily means it works good for you, but it's been working for me since I've been buying cars for the last, I want to say 18 years. So, like I said to you, be an educated buyer. Don't just go out and give dealerships what they want or what they're asking. Make sure whatever they're asking of you works out best for you. I see a lot of people who get caught up in getting the car or acquiring the car that they make bad deals or decisions that don't benefit them, and then 4 to 6, 8 months down the line, they're in a really bad situation looking for a way out when it could have been prevented from Jump Street. Just because a dealership tells you we're only taking $50,000 over MSRP, wait them out. Look for another location. What one dealer won't do, another one will. That's the one thing I learned in life. I've always been told when I was younger that you may be bad, but there's always somebody better, or you may be the best, but there's always somebody better. Well, that's kind of how this is with dealerships. You may get a price today, but there's always another dealer that's willing to do better, because at the end of the day, every dealership situation isn't the same. So I want people to understand that. Sometimes you do have to shop around. Sometimes you do have to postpone acquiring what you want to a later date. Sometimes things just fall right in your lap and it's the perfect time to get some things. I've seen that happen. But for the most part, all I want to say to you is be smart when it comes to acquiring any car, especially this Corvette C8 mid-engine. Whichever version you get, make sure it's the best deal for you, the best purchase you could have made. It's not fun to be in a messed up situation or upside down situation that you wasn't prepared for. But that's all I really have for this video. There's some more stuff we can talk about later. Matter of fact, I think I'll do a part 2 or a continuation, and I'll cover some more topics. But for right now, this was on the table. I want to get all this stuff out. Let's put it on the table and talk about it. Part 1. So hopefully this was informative to you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Share the video, share the information. I do appreciate you for spending your time with me, taking a moment out your day to watch this video. Don't forget to drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your thoughts about what the information I covered. Do you agree with me? Do you have some different thoughts? Let me know so we can talk about it. But as always, stay blessed, stay safe, and I'll see you in these streets. Peace.